talk about the Switch while I keep adding tags to this thing.
Yeah, but is it back on YouTube?
Yeah, we're live now.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're live. So yeah, guys, I apologize for that. There's a little technical snafu with my fingers.
The technical snafu, you went, let me push this giant red hang up button.
What does this do?
Stop. I wonder what it could be.
Okay, so heading back to the Nintendo Switch. The console has a 720p display. It uses specific cartridges, they're basically SD cards. You can expand the storage with a micro SD card, but Nintendo doesn't specify how much storage you can expand it with, so we don't know that. We do know the battery life will last between 2.5 to 6 hours, depending on what you are playing. So the display is a multi-touch display. And Nintendo showed off a couple of games yesterday at its Nintendo event in New York, which none of us were invited to.
Nothing for them.
The Nintendo Switch, they showed Zelda, what's the title again?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild, which is very massive. It's like you playing...
Already pre-ordered.
It's like you playing Skyrim.
I was 5 minutes too late and could get the Master Edition.
Yeah, there's also Skyrim available.
On alerts for that.
On that. There are a bunch of other games. There's a new Street Fighter game, which is Ultra Street Fighter 2, basically the original Street Fighter 2 remastered.
It's Street Fighter 2 HD remix.
Yeah.
That came out, and then they're remastering it again, essentially.
Yes. There's a new Mario Kart. Basically, it's the old Mario Kart remastered.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, basically remastered.
So basically, probably everything remastered with all the extra DLC crap that they had before, with extra new tracks that you already paid for.
Now, with the console, they showed some of the functionality with the motion controls, which a lot of people from the videos I watched said it actually worked really well. There was a boxing game where you would punch and move arms with the controller, and that looked pretty good. It's a new IP from Nintendo. There was also the fact that there were some mini games you played where you didn't have to look at the screen, where people were doing quick draws.
Nintendo Switch 1, 2, wherever the hell it's called.
Yeah, Switch 1, 2, yeah. People were doing quick draws against each other. Some people, they had a game where you could identify how many marbles were in a box by using the HD Rumble. And a lot of people said it actually felt like there were 1 or 2 marbles or 3 or 4, something like that. And then there was a game where people were milking cows. So I'll just leave that one right there.
I'm gonna guess that's gonna be an Animal Crossing game. Gonna guess.
So now that we're back, what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch? I'll start off with you, Sam.
I'm not really impressed with the specs, man. They could have done more with the specs. From what I heard a couple of weeks ago, it looks as though they're using the current Tegra, the NVIDIA chipset. So it's not even the newer version of the Tegra, whatever the newer chip is called. They're just basically repurposing, or I would say they're modifying the current line to make it seem a little, like, just to make it a bump in spec to work for their purposes. And I think that's a lost, that was a lost opportunity. As far as the device as a whole, it's nice. I wish it had different options on size as well. I mean internal storage size, or they'd had different colors. I would have liked a white one, or say a different color, because
that's
my
racist.
consoles here,
super racist. I want a white one.
It's just all the consoles I have right now. Sooner, I'm just gonna have that white Xbox One S. So I want something to complement it. But no, it's pretty cool. I think I pre-ordered, just so you know, I pre-ordered because I think I haven't had a Nintendo console in a while, and this seems like something cool. I really would like to try ARMS. Some of the games, they were really amazing, and the Zelda game looks really, really amazing, and also the Mario game too. So all the games they showed were really compelling. So I like the release. It was a pretty good announcement, I should say.
Juan, how about you?
So I really like whenever Nintendo starts playing with the way that we interact with games. I think for the Wii, that was a step towards trying to create just a new way that we can kind of play with games. Not that I think it really took off. Like, I didn't want to sit there and like throw Wiimotes around while playing all the time. But I'm sort of echo Sam's sentiments there. I am concerned about the horsepower on this thing. for all of the conversations that we have about like entertainment dollars and what families should be spending their money towards, or what families can spend their money towards, even though this is going to be a very inexpensive device, and it looks like it's going to compete well against mobile kit and console living room kit, I still worry that even at $300, that there are going to be a lot of people that are considering like, well, does this impact a potential tablet purchase or a laptop purchase or a Chromebook purchase or any other thing that our family can utilize for entertainment, living room access, all that kind of fun stuff. So I like Nintendo's strategy. I'm in like with Nintendo's strategy. I don't know that I'm in love with Nintendo's strategy, but I'm very curious to be checking out some of these first-party titles and what to see what Nintendo can do to really get third-party developers back on board and see what kind of games they can deliver for this platform.
Cool. I will go before I let Warren have the last say here. I wouldn't say I love and hate the Switch. The Switch looks like something. I mean, I already pre-ordered myself too. Basically, 5 minutes after Warren pre-ordered, pretty much. But one of the things that I agree with Sam is I'm not a fan of the specs, and again, I knew Nintendo was going to go with something this low powered in my mindset. My thing is with the console, you know, there is no future proofing. There really isn't. It's really stuck in a chasm where by next year, even by the end of the year, the processor will already be outdated. Basically, by June, it'll be outdated. Let's just call it what it is. And Nintendo also, it's pricing at $300. Granted, it's nice. It also will fall into this predicament of by December of this year, holiday season of this year, the Xbox One S and the PS4 would be. I think PS4 is already cheaper. The original, I mean, PS4 Slim.
Yeah, the PS4 Slim is $299 at Best Buy.
Yeah, exactly.
And Targets.
Yeah. So you're already competing at that price. And granted, it's going to fulfill a different need, but you're going to go in at a very interesting point. Now, in terms of the console itself, I like what I saw in terms of games. I like what I saw in terms of portability. I like there's a photo which I would like to share, but I'm not going to do screen share anymore, of, you know, a bunch of people. There were like 7 or 8 people sitting down with Switches and they were all playing. You know, it kind of brings back that whole Game
Calling
Boy.
all techies, we need to make that happen at a show.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I also have to throw in there that for a lot of those shots of people like all sitting around playing games together, that even on the tiny little screens, they were still split screen. And you're like, you couldn't make that full screen. I need to play Mario Kart split screen on my own device. You couldn't, couldn't even fake it.
I'm thinking that's going to change. And then I'm thinking that's going to change.
I know, but I'm saying like no one at Nintendo looked at that scene and thought, there's nothing wrong with this. This is exactly how this should work. I just mean, you know, it was a missed opportunity for having a conversation about what mobile gaming should look like. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, so those kind of things have me excited for it in terms of the console. I like the fact that, you know, especially like we just went to CES, you know, picking up a Switch and taking it with us to CES is something that we can easily do and play. The battery life, of course, is going to be a concern, and most likely we're going to be plugging in most of the time. It cannot do a West Coast trip for you unless you're watching movies. That's pretty much it. So we'll have to see. And again, Nintendo's online strategy, I didn't hear anything, so I have no faith. They said later in the year, which means I have no faith in their online strategy because they've done that so many times. So it's a wait and see. It's going to be fun because Zelda looks great. The new Mario game looks good. A lot of the first-party IPs I think will do well, but then of course there's a problem with what happens with third-party IPs. We know we're going to get FIFA and things like that. EA will supply those kind of games. But
Sega was on hand to say that they
Sega's not relevant, man. Please, let's not talk about Sega anymore.
No, but Sega was saying that they are going to be developing games for it, as well as developers there.
I did see a clip of a new Sonic that was it was a side scroller. It looks like a 2-3D. And I was like, okay, I would love to see how that Sonic plays out, but as a whole, it's more of a wait and see when I get the console and see how long this console will last in my hands before Nintendo, you know, basically Nintendo's going to have to do another upgrade again. And we also don't know what their strategy with VR, although those controllers, I think, do work well for VR because of the motion controls and the, you know, the HD rumble in there. So I think that would play into VR, but I don't know how that will move forward.
I mean, they look like they could, but we're talking VR that would barely be competitive against what we're doing with phones already.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. Warren?
Am I allowed to talk now?
Hey, I said I would go first before you finish, man. I mean,
Round it up, Warren.
Okay, so I think when you look at this thing, people have to realize Nintendo's releasing something a bit different here. This is, for all purposes, this is a portable console they're launching. So you can't think of this in the same concept as this is a full-blown console that sits underneath your TV and it's just what it is. This is them finally merging their DS and their main console line together and to give you the Switch thing. This is their idea of this. So I'm not surprised by the specs of it because this is a mobile first thought process. So that's why you got a custom Tegra processor. And any console that comes out with before the console comes out, the processor is already old within a year. It's already a year old before the thing comes out. So I think that's irrelevant to the case. One thing that I do like about it is that it does take USB Type-C charging. That means every portable battery out there should be able to charge this thing. So you should be able to keep yourself on the go and top off pretty well, or just have a battery on there charging. And there'll be companies
that Anchor 20,000 milliamp.
The Anchor 20,000 one. There'll be companies that will obviously be coming out with accessories. This also opens up a lot of these battery companies to make specific things for this particular device. They can maybe make attachments or certain batteries that are optimized for the Nintendo Switch, so which would be pretty cool to see them kind of do. It's one of the things that's disappointing. It's a 720p display, and I think that's only because they wanted to reach the 2.5 to 6 hour battery life scenario. I would really have liked to see this get to at least a minimum of 1080p on the small screen display itself. But there's probably a sacrifice on battery with that if they were going to try and do that. Probably would knock it down to the 2 to 4.5 hour range, which would have just sent everyone in a tizzy. If that, and everyone would have been complaining about the screen, it would have just been not the greatest thing for them to do. But this is a mobile strategy first console. This isn't something that's full, and it isn't meant to just sit there and be under your desk. I think as far as the games are concerned, it's the smartest thing is they're doing what they did with the Wii. They're launching it with the Zelda game, pretty much the same way. That's what sold the Wii last time. The Wii, its initial sales were really not just on the Wii Sports, the Wii sports game that it came with, but it was a lot of the fact that there was a new Zelda that was attached to that game that was just going to just push sales. And that's the same thing, especially this game, which looks to be, it might be one of the best Zelda games of all time. It looks like the development feels like very much like the development of Ocarina of Time, where they're not just going for the game of the year, they're trying to hit game of the decade. With this type of thing, they're trying to blow everyone else out of the water. So we'll see how that goes. That Super Mario Odyssey game looked amazingly great. I was like, where the hell can he go? Because he's been in a land, world, underwater, galaxy. And I said, you can't really go beyond galaxy. And then the Odyssey is now, I guess, what they're doing. And I guess they're messing with time portals. And it looks like he's going to New York of some sort, or basically back home, technically, for Mario, I would guess they would say, because they're from Brooklyn or something like that. I think, right?
I think it's from Brooklyn or something. It's from New York, I believe.
I think the character is supposed to be from Brooklyn, so that would be pretty cool for them to how that game's gonna come out. Sega on board with the Sonic games, awesome, because as long as it's a 2D Sonic game, I don't want any 3D Sonic games. I don't care what anyone says. Whenever I played a 3D Sonic game, he felt slower than the 2D version. It just annoyed me. I want 3D Sonic like you got on the Genesis, and just leave it at that. It will be interesting what other throwback games they bring back, such as Street Fighter. They're bringing back, which originally, realistically, the Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo was like the first real tournament type style game everyone played on in the beginning. So it'd be interesting to see if they bring games like Mortal Kombat back in that style, and King of the Fighters, and other similar games like that. If they really look at the Super Nintendo library and really try to push that even more forward than they had before.
You're right. That could be a good strategy for a lot of companies to actually start I mean, even early on, just start redoing some of the Super Nintendo franchises as HD remixes. And,
If you have the catalog, you might as well, right?
yes,
Might as well.
Just a slight upgrade, because now you don't need to boost it up to an Xbox One level. You just need to boost it up to what Tegra processor can do, right?
Yeah.
And oh yeah, news came out, and we'll be able to play Neo Geo games also.
Neo Geo, that's
which is Neo Geo games are always one of the hottest ones for emulators to run for a while. So it would be nice to have those games.
Neo Geo. Hopefully, throw TurboGrafx 16 and all the rest of those games into the library. If they can really take advantage of the WiiWare or the Switchware, whatever the hell they'll call it, their virtual console, and really implement that within this particular system. But everyone's been asking them to go towards a mobile strategy. This is it. This is their answer to that. Everyone's been saying, well, how do you compete against tablets and all these other screens out there? This is their competition towards that. They're not going after Sony and Microsoft. They're allowing Sony and Microsoft to just beat the hell out of each other as far as in that race is concerned, for probably thin profit margins, and let them just fight that out. They're going in the direction of, all right, how do we solve the ability to have not only mobile gaming, but then also be able to have a console-like experience when you get to home. Remember, Razer had a product like this not too long ago. When 3 or 4 CESs ago, Razer had a very similar product that kind of had a docking station to plug in, and it would be a 1080p on your screen. You get some HD style gaming with it.
The core, right?
Basically. The core,
yeah.
That's exactly what my point was about to be. Basically, if they use the same kind of matrix with the core, or the same kind of ideology with the core, they might have actually just given us the next 2-3 consoles in one bundle. Because if that dock that you have at home gets more powerful, and you can put like a mobile 1060 in there, that would definitely give them 4K capability.
But you gotta remember, that's not the point of this thing. It's not the point.
I hear what you're saying.
It kind of is the point if they're showing the mixed usage. Yeah, I mean, that if you show me that it's a tablet with a controller on it, then that's one thing. But you're showing me that it also docks and plays on a TV, and Nintendo seems to keep sort of falling or lagging just that little bit behind where the industry is going. For all the times that we've seen people bitching about 4K content, like, oh, I buy a 4K TV now, you can't do anything with it. We're finally getting 4K content, and now Nintendo is developing a mobile device which can also play in your living room, which is likely to struggle with 1080p at high frame rate, just as people are starting to invest in Ultra HD
I don't think it's going to struggle with 1080p. I think the advantage is because it's 1080p, they've given developers a lot more ease in terms of making games for that thing. They don't have to live up to that 4K standard.
I definitely see what you're saying, but because if everyone else, go ahead.
Because that 4K, like, we're in 4K upscaling right now. We're not in native 4K gaming just yet. We're getting to those points right now. But it's probably better to sit back and watch that play itself out than try to jump in and be in that same sort of, well, it may or may not play, or it kind of upscales to it, or there's some type of issues, or there's something going wrong with it. If they can sit here and guarantee 1080p 60 on their console, and they can make sure the developers can take advantage of using that, and developers know they can hit this mark, and this console will do this mark every single time, that's probably better to do right now. And wait for the 4K for itself to flush itself
Here's where Nintendo
before they jump into them. And by the time we get to the point where 4K really is something natively done on consoles, Nintendo will already have to release a new console by then. It will already be time to do that.
I think it will be too late. Here's the thing.
How is it going to be too late?
Wait, let me explain. Here's the thing. Nintendo already, with this launch announcement, showed us that they actually were supposed to do what we want them to do. The display is 720p. On TV is 1080. That means you're already doing 2 resolutions.
Yep.
So to Sam's point of, if you had a dock which can always be constantly being upgraded from a 1060 to the next version, or to a 1080, or whatever you want to upgrade it to, means that your mobile experience will always be the mobile experience of 720. As people said, the games look great on 720 on that screen. But at home, when you dock it in, you now go from a mobile experience to a better TV experience. That's the difference. We're not saying change the internal hardware, because you can actually supplement that with a dock that has a 1060. Remember, it's NVIDIA, so NVIDIA can make these two things work together. It is their own chipsets. That's why I say that's a missed opportunity, because also for Nintendo and how they love, how Nintendo loves to, put accessories, upgrading, and that's an easier upgrade formula than me buying
that could be coming
a whole system.
That could be coming down the road. They could be upgrading the dock to do 4K. They could be a 4K dock.
That's what we're saying.
Down the road. But what I'm saying is, why do that right now in this mess of consoles?
No, we're not saying. See, we're not saying they should have done that right now. We're saying that seems to be, what they're planning for. But the problem with that argument also is that if you have everyone else to trying or looking forward to developing 4K content, and you have someone else just doing 1080, yes, technically, theoretically, on paper, it should be easier to dedicate, to basically to develop for 1080p. But you forget, you have to dedicate resources to do that. Everyone else is looking at the next best thing. This one person is doing something else. You're not going to get the resources.
Well, you should be able. They should be able to develop. Most games are developed at the highest resolution process and brought back down. Yep. If they know they can do it that way, by the time the 4K comes around, they'll already have the development piece there for them to have that there. So that will be something. There will already be development for 4K workflows at a very consistent basis by the time they need to do that it will be easier to turn out than it was before. I mean, you see like games like, here was a uselessness of the week that we didn't mention. It was when it was Xbox canceling that damn Scalebound game. There's a great example of failing at something like that.
I was actually looking forward to that game.
Yeah, but did you see the video of the game? I mean, the gameplay looked terrible.
Yeah, it was choppy. It was
choppy. But that's a perfect example of
reminding me, Warren,
too hard.
Moment this week.
No, but also remember this, Warren. As much as we've said this with every Nintendo console generation, it doesn't matter whether it's scalable down. Again, to Sam's point, you still need somebody to scale it down. That's the thing. So that's what you need. Guys, can you continue? I just need to just jump off for a second.
Okay. But yeah, overall, I think the consoles it's hitting the right point right now. It's very similar to what Sony did with the PS4 Pro. It's hitting at the right point right now for what it's needed. Remember, Nintendo needed something that was going to be consistent, easy to develop, and get the audience and the fan base back into it for people to get into it. The next console, they can worry about jumping up and going things a little bit higher. But right now, they need an install base. They need people to come and play their system. Sony just needed something to push 4K a little bit, and something that needed to be something that can help the PSVR just a little bit more. It's Microsoft that was the one that was mostly in trouble, because now they have to release basically a new console, which we're going into next generation with.
And I don't disagree with that sentiment. It's just, again, I think we're all in sort of a wait and see mode with what Nintendo can offer, with what type of entertainment experiences they can bring. Can they get third-party developers on board? And I think at this price point, it's a little bit less of a risk, right? At $300, you're not talking about a console investment, which is going to be a painful experience. But at $300, still, those are entertainment. Those are entertainment dollars that need to be distributed across a family, which might already own a console, or might already be invested in tablets, or might already have a strategy for things like Apple TV or Chromecasts or things like that. So again, distributing on all this, I think we still wanted to see something from Nintendo. I think Nintendo has brought some cool to the table, and now we need to see what they can really do with it. I'm probably, I don't know, everyone else pre-ordered, because I didn't.
Yeah, that's a PS3. There's a damn Zelda game. You pre-order.
Don't worry, you share one of the controllers with me. We'll do the split screen.
Well, all right, let's move on from Nintendo. But we do know the console is coming out March 3rd, $299. Zelda is one of the launch games. I believe they'll have how many games at launch? 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 games at launch.
That's better than most consoles.
Don't know what those games.
That's better than most consoles.
But to the argument of Microsoft, I think Microsoft still had the best strategy year 2016, because even though PlayStation beat them in sales towards the end of the year, the fact that they released the Xbox One S put them at a very good
Well,
it was
you gotta remember what the Xbox One S is. It's repurposed Xbox One hardware capable to go up to 4K. That's the smartest. They had to do that. They had to do that so you wouldn't have a whole bunch of hardware sitting in the damn sitting in a shelf somewhere in a warehouse so they could resell that thing. It's just much why Slim exists.
It's not even a repurpose. Literally, the chipset is still the same. It's just more cores open, and the hardware shell has changed. That's the biggest difference to the Xbox One S in total. Anyway, let's move on to HTC. HTC on the 12th announced its newest device. If somebody can screen share that, I would greatly appreciate it because I'm not going to attempt it. It is the HTC U and U Ultra, which is their latest smartphone. It is powered by a Snapdragon 821 processor. It's got two displays like the LG V20, one on the top bar, and of course a QHD display. It's got a 60 megapixel shooter in the front, and I believe a 16 at the back or 12. I might be wrong.
I think it's 12. Nobody cares.
Oh, wow. Wow. Calm down. It does have the HTC's own voice assistant, which is powered by Google Assistant. It looks like Google is not sharing Google Assistant in the pure form. You have to build on that. So they're doing that as well. And they've got some new UI changes to it. So I'll start off with you, Juan. What do you think of the U and U Ultra? Because the U is really underpowered, but the U Ultra itself. What do you think?
Damn it, I wanted to roast.
Okay, so man, I'm torn on this because the strategy here seems to be I've got Jaime Rivera up here right now because he was the one who actually got to go hands-on with the U Ultra when we got to play with it. I'm a little concerned. I really want to see more of what HTC is talking about in terms of software strategy. Let me see if I can find him actually holding the device, not just like talking. There we go.
We can only see a picture. Remember, only pictures of this.
And so we were gonna shoot video, and then people complained at this pre-brief that they said, "Oh, you said we could only shoot photos." I'm not gonna name which site was making the biggest play, but it rhymes with merge into traffic. So HTC is making a lot of noise about how they've kind of done everything they can with aluminum. Now they're going to play with glass. I'm a little worried about this sort of derivative split between an LG V20 at the front and a Samsung glass kind of thing at the back.
Oh, could you post that screen you had there that had some?
Hold on one second. Let me get that back. Which screen do you want?
There was a screen that had a list of things like Ultra U-Sonic and a bunch of other features that was on the device. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very curious to see what they can do with the software strategy. Again, I think the market is still wide open for us to be playing with digital assistants. So I think there's definitely something to play with there. I'm curious what this sort of build strategy might feel like in the hand, but I'm getting kind of tired of glass being this premium build material. I don't think glass really deserves to be on the back of every single phone, and I'd love to see another company play with anything else which might delineate a more expensive or premium product. Although I am emboldened to hear that they sound like they're going to start playing with sapphire for the front face for one of these U models, and that could be really compelling because I'll tell you, glass, even sort of treated or chemically treated glass, can scratch pretty easily. I don't know. On the whole, I'm apprehensive. I'm a little anxious about HTC's strategy, especially when it comes to audio.
I am very disappointed in that fact.
And losing the headphone jack for their proprietary USB-C port, I think, is a terrible move. I think it sets the industry back. And I think it stands in the way of us developing a proper standard when really we should just be forcing Android manufacturers to support real Linux USB audio, as opposed to this mess of some phones can use some things and some phones have to have their own proprietary solutions. That's going to piss off consumers royally as they start trying to mix and match components and nothing will work.
I don't like that strategy either, but I've heard a lot of talk that blame starts with Google. So,
oh no, I mean, look at the Pixel. Absolutely. The Pixel is a perfect example of not properly supporting USB input output, not properly supporting USB OTG. It's the one phone I can count on to not properly support anything I plug into the bottom port. And another reason why I'm still not a huge fan of Google's first-party strategy from the Nexus to the Pixel, but I would expect more out of an HTC. So for whatever issues Google might have, we've seen Huawei actually last year over 2016 step up to deliver pretty good support. If I plug a USB DAC into a Huawei, which doesn't have the best headphone jack, I can pretty much count on it working almost universally, built on what Android's already doing with USB audio drivers. So even with the deficiencies from Google, we've seen some companies do this much, much better. That's kind of where I'm at right now. HTC U, I think it's an interesting design experiment from HTC. I'm probably going to love the build quality, but these aren't the materials that I want to see companies keep using, and I want to see them evolve on the things that I liked from the HTC 10, not try and emulate what was successful for other companies like Apple and Samsung.
Sam.
It's an interesting. I would say it's an interesting device. From everything I'm looking at here, the specs don't really kind of pop out at you. It does have a micro SD card slot. Yay, that's great. It's nice to have, but it doesn't look compelling.
Quick question: does anybody know if it's water resistant?
It should be. I think it is water resistant.
Okay, I'll check. Just continue.
Yeah, you should check. I
don't know. I don't know if we have that up.
I thought the U Play was supposed to be water resistant or something, so I thought the Ultra would be as well. But okay. I might be mistaken. It's just not a compelling phone. I'm looking at the design. Once again, I don't mind the glass. I just mind. I don't mind the glass backing and whatnot, but just the fingerprints that are always going to get on there. You're just going to keep on cleaning your phone over and over and over. As far as the USB-C argument go, I didn't even know that the USB-C was proprietary on their side. I thought it was going to follow the 3.1 standard, and that's kind of odd that companies aren't following the standard that is out there. Because USB-C in and of itself is not a standard. USB 3.1 is the standard. So if they jump out there and figure they're going to do something different, then we're going to have a very interesting hardware ecosystem out there. The screen on the top, I just don't see how you're going to use that too well. I don't see how that's going to just like the LG V10 and V20. I don't know how that screen is really going to add to anyone's usability or functionality of the device. But at least HTC is trying something different. That's the best I can say about this phone. At least HTC is trying something different.
Sorry, Warren, go ahead. If I chime in, I was going to say something. You go ahead.
It doesn't matter if you're trying something. If you're trying something that's absolutely useless and stupid, this whole thing, the minute they announced this phone, you look at it. Well, let's talk about the announcing at 3 a.m. in the morning. How many US press data for that one? That was a real genius idea. And beyond that, you have the fact that they put out a phone with basically last year's specs on it. They announced it this year. In the beginning of the year, it's not coming out till March. Why on earth would you do that? At this point, I'm going to say to all Android companies, I'm going to say this specifically to LG and HTC. Do not announce your phone until after Samsung does. It's just a losing situation for you every single freaking time. Just announce after they do. So at least somebody will somewhat pay attention and compare. So you won't look like you're beneath them, but look like you're somewhat catching up close. But beyond that, this build quality, okay, glass for metal, going off of a tradition that they've been doing for a long time now. Silly, in my opinion. That's just trying to copy what Samsung's been doing. The whole display thing at the top. Why? The LG gets flack for it because it doesn't. No one actually uses it, and I don't know why they're putting it on there because no one wants to use it.
I'll stand as counterpoint. I actually really like the second screen on the V10 and the V20, but please continue.
Welcome to being the only person on earth that actually uses that. And also, that's another funny thing. That's a Samsung copy from like 5 or 6 years ago. It's actually me and his first Samsung event ever we went to. We saw that thing. I forgot the name of the phone. But continue. I mean, they didn't continue with that second screen for a reason. So I don't know why the hell anybody else is deciding to do that. But then the second I saw they went to this U and then this U Play, and I'm like, oh my God, they're dying. They're going the Motorola strategy. That means they're dying. It's that We can't figure out what we want to put out, but we want a series to match up. And if we put this series out, people will understand this. So we'll put it out this way, and it'll be really easy to explain. Even though we only really talked about the Ultra and had made no real comments about the Play, like it actually existed in any way, shape, or form. Then you go and you decide to have an event at CES. Don't tell anybody that you're there. Only allow certain media in, and beyond the fact you don't allow video to be shown to this thing. How do you think the press is going to react to that whole situation? That's why I'm not surprised that The Verge roasted the crap out of this. And then going on to removing your headphone jack when you were the company that was about audio. Seems to be LG's taking that over. You were the company all about audio, and now you're completely going away from that whole scenario. Gives you the one gimmick you actually had that people cared about that's only gone away. Then this whole thing, I saw this, your HTC Sense powered by AI. Stop that shit. Stop that AI nonsense. Just because you can predict and trick and do things like that does not make it artificial intelligence. It's not a great code word to fool people into thinking that's what that is. You just have HTC Sense, and it's just some software. When you pick it up, it'll light up at you when you have a notification. Congratulations on that. This whole phone is a congratulations, you played yourself scenario with this whole thing. You announce now, you put it out in March. Really? I don't really know. I couldn't have been the least excited for this thing. I will review it. I will put it out there. We'll see what it is. But I guarantee you, across the board, all of us will be like, well, they took a step down from the HTC 10, and that's going to be what it is. You build a Pixel. You build what the Pixel is, which a lot of people like, right? The Pixel is a phone that, first Google phone that you have people outside the tech industry asking about and talking about on a regular basis, and people for the most part like that. You go from that to this. That doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. It's clear they're lost. It's clear they've not taken any advice from many people. And trust me, companies like Huawei and Leico are coming to take your and Xiaomi, by the way.
Yeah, no.
Are going to eat their lunch, and they're going to eat it badly.
Well, and I'll also throw in ZTE as being the spiritual successor to what we liked about the M8 and M9.
Yeah,
and don't forget the big Android fan favorite, OnePlus. You know,
OnePlus.
they got the act
Well,
together.
we sat here for 2 years straight and bashed the hell out of OnePlus. Did we not do that for 2 years straight? And now they're looking better than HTC. They're 3 T's better than what they're putting out now.
Oh my God! All right, let me round this up. I was a little bit disappointed with this device, especially on the sound department. I'm looking at some of the sound specs here. Boom sound with hi-fi, which is nice. You got high-res audio recording and high-res audio certification.
Oh, hold on. Let me jump on that one for a second. Are they going to fix the issue with that, where it doesn't produce an MKV file that's not compatible with jack shit, like they did last time?
Yeah, we don't know that. We don't know that. But I'm just saying the audio. But again, you're limited with headphones on their proprietary headphone USB Type-C jack, which of course just limits everything. Even if you wanted to transition from regular headphones that you see behind me to USB headphones, you can't just buy an adapter on Amazon. It won't work because it's not a HTC branded adapter or things like that. So that aspect is there. In terms of the processor with the 821, I'm fine with that because we know Samsung has the exclusive to the 835 for any smartphone coming up first. But to your Warren's point, if you're going to announce this, then this phone should be out by the end of the month. Literally.
That was my biggest criticism, is if HTC announces early but then takes a long time to ship like LG did, then no one's going to pay attention. But if they had announced and then had this phone ready to buy, and in 2 weeks you can get your hands on it, I think they might have actually scored a mini upset. But the way that they limped into the market is something that's completely unacceptable.
They were the ones that started that shit. Yeah, they were the ones that did. With the M8, they were the ones that did. The M8 was available on Verizon the next day after. No, 4 hours after the event, it was available already on Verizon, and a week later you could get it from everyone else. And then they're going to completely go away from that. Why do you announce before Samsung? No, why do they do that? Why do any of you Android manufacturers announce before Samsung? You're taking an L. Because whatever you put out, you can put out the Jesus phone. Nobody cares because the brand Galaxy isn't on it. Nobody
This is absolutely just like the V20 announcement, where then we had to wait until after the iPhone and Pixel were actually launched before we could get our hands on the V20. It's
They announced the V20?
the same horrible misstep in terms of actually trying to reach your fan base out there.
Oh, that's very true. I mean, also the one other thing with this device is also its price. At $749 for the U Ultra does not put this in as a device. I think to Warren's point, we had this discussion. Warren stated that HTC should realize they are not in the same level as Samsung. Know your level, know your position. And this device should have been priced. If it was $600, I can understand. But at $749, it really, even though there's a lot of interesting things in here, it just does not equate to the consumer that this is something that people will pick up at that price. But anyway, let's move away from HTC because we've spent some time there and talk about a lot of the Galaxy S8 rumors.
Which is everyone in the chat is waiting for us to talk about, because here's the thing, but I'm going to make this example. Everybody in here in this chat, from everything that HTC was announcing and everything they could have put out there, I guarantee you none of the people in here will buy a single phone until they hear what Samsung releases, until it's officially out there.
Oh, nobody and we have 3 other people in the chat that also use a second screen on V10 and V20. So I just that there are 3 other people in the chat that also have respectable taste when it comes to interesting.
We need to pop up.
No, I know. I was shocked too, but apparently there are more of us than you know.
Yes, 4. Great.
I would say they have some form of taste. I don't know if it's respectable, but it's some form.
I didn't say it was good taste. I said it was respectable.
But here, Ronald Collins says the V20 came out at $792, which, of course, as you saw, didn't sell up to more than 200,000 units. That's just how much it sold.
I don't think that's a price issue. I really don't. When you look at the pricing on the Pixel, it's not a dollars to donuts thing. I think Google advertised the Pixel. They made it a first party solution and people were interested in that. HTC limped into a product announcement and isn't going to ship for 2.5 months, and that's why it's not going to sell. I don't think it has anything to do with price. In fact, I think the price actually works in its favor, that customers will look at that price and think, oh, well, this must be a nice product. But they won't get to play with one. It's not going to be up front and center in carrier stores. They're not going to know why it might be different than any other device there. They're going to see the lack of headphone jack, and they're going to turn to something that they know, which is more familiar. Yeah. That's the problem. The problem with the V20 wasn't the price. It was the availability. It was the unknown, not having any kind of release strategy or pricing information for weeks after the announcement. No one was going to sit there and wait for LG to eventually tell us what the phone was going to be priced at. And then here in the United States, we didn't get good advertising or good messaging. We got Joseph Gordon-Levitt drumming and a bunch of fun people dancing. In South Korea, they got all of these really awesome mini documentaries about what made the phone different, which we had no access to here. All right, so I think the V20 deserves to be priced at the price that it's at. I think it actually brings cool stuff to the table, but that's not why it didn't sell.
Okay, let's move away from those guys.
It's not gonna stop. You're jumping into the S8.
We're going to the Samsung Galaxy S8, and this time I'm going to try and share my screen again. I'm doing. Oh boy! I'll sit here.
Don't hit the big red button. Don't hit the big red button.
Whoa. All right, so here we have it. This leaked this week from Atomic Ghost Tech Atomic case for the S8. The Atomic cases are usually really hard, super protective cases. But a couple of things we've seen from the renders, and usually most of these case manufacturers will give us a good idea of what to expect. Number one, you can see that all the buttons are on the left-hand side. So you have your volume and your power. There is no dual camera at the back, and the flash is actually on top of the camera module, not on the side. Not sure about the heart rate sensor. But the main big thing is the screen size, the screen to bezel size, and also the lack of a home button on the front or a button at the back, which leads to the fact that Samsung will be switching over to Qualcomm's Sonic 3D fingerprint sensor. And then also this yesterday, and also I believe 3 days ago, Samsung Display dropped a video that showcased this image of the device in their video, which leads a lot of people to believe this is what the Galaxy S8 will look like. As you can see, the screen to bezel ratio is probably around 90%. You can see a camera module in front, and that's it. There's no fingerprint sensor. It's a really massive display. The rumors point to about 6.4-inch screen in a 5.7-inch body, because of course it's just mostly screen and not a lot of bezel. And it looks like Samsung, with all the rumors, is still sticking with a 2K display, but with, I've forgotten what technology it was, but basically it's almost like saying you have an HDR display or something with better color resolution on there, which will help in a lot of cases, especially VR and also just general viewing. So what do you guys think about all the rumors with the S8? And of course, with that casing also, there was a headphone jack, just to put that out there.
Well, that's also whether or not Samsung can deliver a good headphone jack to North America. I'll be curious to see. But I'm most excited about. Didn't they do this on a Galaxy S2 where one of their AMOLED screens was a proper RGB stripe?
I believe so. I just can't remember which.
And then they went to a higher resolution, so they went back to Pentile. I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Original. When they launched the Galaxy S2, it was all bigger screen versions of it, but the original smaller one did launch on Verizon. I think that's the one that the RGB screen before they launched like the Rocket version of it or whatever.
All the different versions of different.
The dark days of Samsung having different carrier models for every phone they produced. No, so that's actually the thing that I'm most stoked to see is this screen size in this form factor, and then also utilizing something that I really like about LCD displays. Since we can't get 4K on this screen, a 6-inch screen with 4K resolution could have been kind of compelling. That if Samsung can make those plays, then I think that'll still be progress, and it'll still be something that'll be interesting to talk about on this phone.
Yeah, I definitely agree. For me, it's the fingerprint sensor on the screen itself. Using Qualcomm's 3D Sense technology. According to them, because you use sonic emissions, it actually scans more of your groove, so it's making it more secure. But the fact that you don't have to have a specific button anywhere, you just put your finger on the screen and it turns it on, to me is really nice and exciting there. And also the screen size too, the fact that you're getting a bigger screen in the same real estate. That's something Samsung has been doing over the last couple of years, in just keeping the screen size almost the same and expanding that real estate there, and definitely what they do with cameras. But I agree with one of the people in the chat who says, they need to put a proper DAC into the headphone jack. I mean, if they're keeping the headphone jack, this is their time to now steal all of that LG thunder that LG has with audio and just throw it in there and just make it a really complete device, I think, in my mind. But what do you think, Warren?
I mean, just think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Warren. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. They're doing everything, I think, to try and satisfy traditional S8 customers and also those no customers that don't have a new phone, that are probably ready to want a new phone because they're used to upgrading to a Note every year and they couldn't do that this year. So I think them doing that. Them putting a DAC inside of there.
A proper DAC. They have a DAC. Just a proper
I imagine they'll do something with Harman Kardon, but I don't know if they'll talk about it much because that won't be the focus of this phone. It's really about them focusing on reassuring people that Samsung is a top quality brand, and that things that happen with the Note 7 will not happen here with the S8. They will speak upon safety of the battery. They'll probably speak upon how cool it charges, not how warm it gets or anything like that. I think they'll mention stuff like that. I think they'll really put a focus on ensuring people of those things. I think they're not going to go for as many gimmicks here. Like I don't think they'll. I think the camera's going to be just their camera. Their what's it called, ISOCELL. I think was it called ISOCELL that Samsung uses, or whatever the name of their.
I think it's ISOCELL, but the next version of ISOCELL.
Yeah, they'll probably use the next version of that, because I think if they do anything dual camera related, that will be something that the Note will gain to differentiate itself, because they need to do something to differentiate the Note again. And I think we'll see an improvement to the front-facing camera. I think we'll hear a lot about them talk a little bit more about maybe pushing it to 8 megapixels, probably some selfie modes and some extra wide-angle shots that it can take. And then maybe finally talk about it being the only front-facing camera that does 2K recording, that actually does higher resolution recording on it, even though they don't ever like to mention it, but it does do that, and does it at a pretty good quality too. So I see them really pushing some of those things. I think what we will be most amazed about will be the display technology, and the fingerprint reader that will be underneath the display will be the big things that we'll talk about probably at this event, whenever the S8 actually launches. And I think that this is a singular device. I don't think they're going to have something else in accordance with it. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden have S8 and an S8 Edge. I think this is one S8 that's going to have its Edge display. It's going to have.
You think they will have two sizes of that one S8?
No. I think the days of that for them to do that are over.
Wow. So you're thinking it's just a 5.7-inch S8?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be obviously in the compact size, but it's going to have that screen size of the Note.
Yeah.
And it's going to have everything except for probably the stylus. Now, that's the only thing that they would end up doing, is they add an S8 Pro, and its main difference would be a stylus. And that's the only thing that I could see that they would add with that. But I think right now that they're getting such positive buzz coming from the S8, I think they're going to focus on this being their one main device. I think then at that point, if they want to introduce something else down the road, or something a little bit different, or something in between the time, they can do that. But I think they're going to be like a 1-2 phone kind of punch. And then maybe when it gets closer to Apple, they may refresh or something like that. S8 Pro or S8, whatever the heck they want to do. Because remember, they kind of did that with the Note. They announced the Galaxy S6. They needed a Note 5 and the S6 Edge Plus at when the iPhone was being announced. So that may be something they want to do around that strategy again, because the iPhone 8 is bound to be the most anticipated phone this year because of a lot of the rumors about them changing a lot of things around. So there's going to be a lot of buzz around that. And I think Samsung's going to want to be very ready to compete highly against them in that space.
Sam?
Well, I'm looking at the device. It looks nice. I'm not a big fan of I shouldn't say I'm not a big fan. I like the Galaxy S lines, but I'm more a fan of the Note. Yeah, so whatever I'm actually more interested in what you're going to do with a Note. Given this as a basis for the design, it looks as though it's actually going to be pretty awesome. The rear of it seems a little empty with just the way the camera is set up. I don't know, it just seems odd to me. That's like the one thing about the phone that doesn't appeal to me at all. Just like
yeah, I guess, well, they want you to look at the display.
Yeah, but the fingerprint, I guess, with the fingerprints at the end, the fingerprint scanner, I would really like to see how that works in this, right? And if they can get it to work well on the first go.
Well, Qualcomm has demoed it a bunch.
I know Qualcomm has. It's Samsung implementation that I'm worried about.
Well, I mean, what we got last year is that Samsung and Qualcomm are working together. I mean, remember, Samsung is helping them fab their chipset. They're now more integral into that partnership.
So the thing with me is simply this, right? How fast would it be able to read a fingerprint? I get it. We'll probably be able to look at a fingerprint in more detail, but would it be able to do it faster than what we're seeing now? From
the demos that I've seen, it was fast. So I mean, it didn't look slower. Maybe they were like the fastest. I always think of Huawei fingerprint sensors are super fast.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem as fast as that, but it felt faster than the regular Samsung fingerprint sensor. So which for me, I think is a plus there on that side. But to your point, there are also rumors that a Q3 Samsung and LG are releasing a foldable device. Maybe that is the new Note.
I don't think that would be the new Note.
Maybe it's the Westworld Note.
I think the Note is. I honestly think the Note is coming. They're going to redefine that phone.
Yeah,
there's something different coming for that phone. I think that's when you're going to see the dual cameras, and maybe in the front and the back, or you're going to see powerful specs inside that thing, where they're going to probably put 8 gigs of RAM in the damn thing. I think I think that's where you're going to see that happen over there. They're going to come with maybe some different, like maybe something foldable. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a second display, but do it right. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works out with them. But I think right now the S8 is improving upon last year, keeping a safe bet, but putting some wow factor into it.
Juan, there was something you wanted to say. Sorry.
What's that?
I said there was something you wanted to interject earlier.
I've already properly forgotten because I was actually sort of slumming it in the live chat. Sorry, guys. No,
that's all right. Go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just going to say at the end of the day, I'm not big on the Edge. I've always said that. I'm not a big, wrap around screen.
Except when it came to the Note 7.
They did it well because it wasn't a fully wraparound screen, but this looks as though it is the whole way through.
I still miss that Note Edge. That Note Edge wraparound. That thing was like a steep curve. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was noticeable. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a compelling device regardless. Samsung has done a great job over the last 2 years with the S line.
Now, the other part of the rumors is that Samsung also has its own voice assistant called Bixby. Bixby and Telstra are the two names, but I think.
Well, wasn't the brand name going to be something like Viv?
Yeah,
like it was Project Bixby, and I don't know what Samsung's doing.
See, I'm not sure if it's powered, because I think this is not powered by Google Assistant. I think it's powered by something else. Not Alexa, but I'm not exactly sure because.
It's definitely not going to be Alexa. I think Samsung is looking at their own S voice strategy and they're rolling their own. I think this is proprietary.
Intel is throwing a lot of. IBM has been telling people to use Watson. They've been allowing people to come in and basically try things out with Watson. I would not be surprised if in some shape or in some fashion that turns into Bixby, because it's going to be using Watson's, probably Watson over a internet connection.
That just Samsung featuring Watson, and you would just say Watson to the phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Actually.
That would be really awesome because Watson is really powerful.
Soldier would get a big head about it.
So I mean, how great you guys are talking about Watson, because I've been saying that for a while. I want an IBM Watson phone. It's spreading.
But here's the thing, though. I think with Samsung, you can name it. The reason why I said that is because at CES met with Samsung people on the Samsung Home, the refrigerators, right? Also has a voice assistant, and with the voice assistant, they said you can name it with a specific name, so you can actually rename it from Bixby to something else. There are easier names you can pick.
Because they were using Hi Samsung, I think, through the whole.
Yeah, they were using Hi Samsung in the demo, but you can rename it into a couple of different names.
And it's across all their products too, because the same UI was also seen on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same look.
But they just didn't display when we saw the TVs at the show. So it looks like Samsung, you're definitely right, is really pushing that out. And also the last thing, which was leaked, is the fact that Samsung Mini Pay or Pay Mini is coming to other Android devices than iOS. Now, I don't know how that will work, especially with the what's it called, the MFT, MST, which we use on Samsung devices. But we'd like to see how they try and implement some of that as it moves forward. But I think it looks pretty good for Samsung overall. More, the rumors are now pointing back to Mobile World Congress than an April event, which again seems in line with a lot of things that Samsung does.
I think they will be an April event. I think I said this already last year, that Samsung cannot wait to release a Note, right? They can't wait to release it at the same schedule they've had all the time for the past few years. Yeah. So there might not be an April release, but there will be an April announcement. And I think it's going to be a US focused April announcement, because this is with
the MWC reveal, and then April. Okay, I mean, if that's the case, that might be something that will work out there. But
I don't know if they'll announce this at MWC. I think they might still do their own thing at their own event and not want to share the thunder with anybody else.
I mean, I thought that too, but a lot of new rumblings are pointing to that, and just also some things I know I can't say, but I think the things are pointing to.
Oh, so to clarify my point, there is going to be an MWC announcement, as they always do, but I think in April there's going to be another announcement, and I think they're going to try to separate the Notes replacements from the MWC announcements, because it just seems that they need to hit the Notes or the Notes hopefuls earlier than
I don't think we see that until the fall.
No, you're going to see, but it's not going to be two devices. Samsung will not release, unless those two devices are the same S8 two devices. Samsung will not do that. They've never done that in terms of, unless you're going to get an S8 Pro. That's what I'm saying. That's what
I'm saying. Yeah, the replacement for the Notes, whatever.
Unless it's a Pro. But I think what you're going to see is an announcement at MWC. And a full reveal, because also Qualcomm needs to showcase 835 fully. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're going to see. And then you might see a US focused event where it's now proper release date, maybe it's coming out in a couple of days at that time in April, or maybe like the next week or something, where people now get more hands-on details, more things about device that they showcase. So I think we'll see that in April, but we don't know. But MWC looks like a place where at least we're going to get new announcements. Also, LG is teasing that. There's a video, which of course you guys can find in the description, where they talk about screen size. So the G6 is going to be coming out. Rumors have pointed that there will be no more modular connections to the device.
That ain't no damn rumor.
That's confirmed. That is confirmed.
The device will have a larger display, maybe also following the same path as Samsung with a bigger screen footprint and less bezels on this device. Juan, what do you think about the G6 and what LG is trying to put out there, especially again announcing at the same time with Samsung, most likely at MWC?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this is actually something that's feeding into what we're talking about in the live chat right now, which I've been typing furiously away at.
I can see
where people seem to think that things like good audio don't matter.
Oh God.
So the problem with yeah, I know, right? The problem with LG,
headphone Nazi. You are the headphone Nazi.
Hey, don't lie. You love those Poco headphones, man.
Yeah,
again, it's almost disappointing to even speculate on what LG might deliver. There's a part of me that wants to say, like, I don't care until I see LG come up with a good ad strategy. Like, it won't matter. It won't matter if they've got amazing technology, phenomenal build quality, reliability, great features, because no one's going to know about it. But if they're going to walk away from modular, cool. I'm going to be super disappointed if they decide to stick with glass. Really, what I want from LG to release in North America and across Europe is the V34 that they dropped off in Japan. That's what I want, and I don't think we're going to get it. The V34 was a one-off for Japan, which is like a mini version of the V20. Instead of having the removable battery, they included enhanced water resistance. That I want that. I want a smaller V20 with the same drop resistance and water resistance built into it, and I'm willing to sacrifice having the removable battery to get it. But we're not going to get that phone. That phone was this strange limited edition product that they had for a very limited region. And the same thing for the V20. The V20 was limping into the market in North America, completely ignoring Europe and the UK. And so no one who really wanted to play with that phone got to play with it in the absence of a Note 7. So for whatever they do with the G6, I see a company that's scrambling to try and create some kind of brand identity. They're ignoring conversations with consumers, and they've got products which are phenomenal, and then they're desperately trying to emulate anything that's been successful for someone else. Instead of looking at what actually makes their brand unique, they're instead trying gimmicks, as far as I'm concerned. So I hope it's a cool phone. I'm glad to see the experiment that the G5 is finally properly dead, and hopefully LG can figure out how to actually talk to people instead of trying to rely on like us YouTubers to carry the weight of that conversation for people who can't understand bang for buck and what features they get for their money.
Anyone else want to chime in?
He went on the nicer LG rant, I suppose.
So for the G5, right? I actually think LG did. Yes, the implementation was bad, but the idea behind it was very good. The idea was that.
But was it though? I mean, Sam, we had those discussions. Like, what did LG bring to modularity that couldn't have been accomplished with a USB-C port?
There was
a proper OTG.
I think Motorola did a better implementation.
Motorola tried to actually do something different in terms of that, but I still doubt very much that Motorola did anything with modular phone design that could not have been accomplished using proper implementation of USB OTG.
Yeah, no, that's right. I hear you, but I think the whole idea that you can dock something onto your phone, or you can plug something onto your phone to make it a better camera, to make it a better audio player, to make it a more powerful home entertainment system. I think that's the right way to go, because the phone is becoming more and more our center of entertainment and communication.
I totally agree with that sentiment, but we didn't get that. We got something which was about the same as having a Bluetooth speaker. We got a camera mod which was worse than the actual camera built into the back of the phone, except for being able to zoom. Anytime I see someone walking around with that Hasselblad camera back on a Moto Z, I know they don't know anything about cameras. I know they don't know anything about camera quality. The only thing that they could possibly want from that is the zoom, and even that is proper terrible when you really compare it to something like the iPhone zoom. I mean, it's not good.
Digital zoom at that too.
Yeah, but the idea behind the modular phone is not it's not insubstantial. No, it's not. Exactly, that's the problem. It is dead, but it shouldn't be dead. I think
I agree with that.
It is dead, but it shouldn't be. I think the G6 should have figured out a way to implement it better, but they're just giving up. And I think that is the death of innovation, to basically just give up just because something didn't work the first time around.
I think the price point is the problem with that. The pricing just didn't work out in that whole scenario. But going back into LG, they need, you know what? They need to brand this as a new flagship. They should not call this anything Optimus or anything G related. After the G4 and the G5 essentially kind of floundered around, I think they need to refresh their lineup with something new. Don't put a U in front of it though. Don't do that. But if we refresh it with something a little bit new for LG, give people an idea of who you are, what your brand is, and why you're on the top level of Samsung, because they can kind of put themselves at a little bit saying, hey, we're just as premium as Samsung, because they have put out phones that have been pretty much as good as Samsung has put out there. I beat a couple little differences between the two, but they could put themselves at the brand, unlike HTC tries to think they can. So I think they could do that in some way, but I really think, like what Juan said, they really need to remarket the hell out of themselves to something other than what they've done, honestly, in the last 2 years. They need to. I need to hear LG One, LG Superstar. I don't give a damn what the name is. It just needs to be something that's not on the Optimus line anymore, and something that's brand new. This is our new series, and this is what we're sort of focused on. Instead of don't do what HTC did and basically abandon your one branding, which people recognized, and went with this U series, which kind of cannibalizes their one branding and their design branding, which was really easy to differentiate. Now it isn't as easy anymore to differentiate between the brands. So and produce something more than the damn K series when you could to everyone and such. But
and also, I mean, look at what one of the major talking points when we got to sit in on that LG brief was that the K series was going to feature expanded support for USB OTG. Like, that's the right conversation to have. No one's going to care about a K phone from a company that can't even market their flagships.
Go to YouTube. How many people covered those K series phones outside of a picture on social media? Nobody cared. I mean, that was the least talked about thing in their booth. I mean, it was the point where I was walking with the LG rep in the booth. It was like, we have the K series and blah. It was that's not their fault, because LG Mobile's got to figure that whole thing out. But they really have got to push themselves, because they have such great products and everything else. They have great TVs, they have good laptops, they have good audio products as well too, and good displays, and they're right there in the mix with Samsung and everything else. They're in the mix.
I actually give them more kudos than Samsung when it comes to phone design, because they are willing to experiment. They're the ones who gave us the curved phones. They're the ones giving us modular phones. I want them to continue experimenting. I don't want them to give up.
But there's only so many experiencing
interesting.
There's only so many experiencing you can do before it's like you're failing at it now. You're throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something sticks, and it ain't al dente. So
hashtag for the show. Hashtag it ain't al dente.
It ain't al dente.
All right, let's move on here. Because of course we were running late since I did a FUBAR on the first show. But quickly, Motorola sent out invites for its Motorola and might I add also Huawei. Huawei sent out, both of them sent out invites for Mobile World Congress. Motorola's is on the 26th of February, showcasing some new motor devices, probably some of the leaks we've seen, and also rumor is that Huawei is pushing out the P10. So quickly, just quick thoughts on that, because we're running, of course, super late at this point. Anyone want to chime in?
Okay. So I'm a little less concerned about Motorola. I know I've got a couple of Moto people that are probably not going to be very happy that I said that. I've been actually very interested to see what Lenovo's strategy might be, because Lenovo might be dropping some cool gear at MWC 2 this year. I'm Moto as a brand, I think they've got some of the similar issues we've been talking about in terms of HTC and in terms of LG, especially facing intense Chinese competition. Like when people are super excited to be talking about Echoes, and it's difficult actually getting views on a Moto video, I think that speaks to where the tone of the conversation is heading. But Huawei is a company that really impressed me over 2016. They bought a lot of credibility with me when we started playing with P9s and Honor 8s and my trusty Mate 9, which really has been my side phone. For someone who hates phablets, having the combination of a V20 and a Mate 9 for most of my coverage towards the end of the year was actually pretty killer. So if they've got a P10 in the works, I still want that V34. I would love to have all of the features of a V20 in a smaller form factor, but if they can bring some of the features that make the Mate 9 unique to the P10, I think that'll be an excellent step forward for Huawei. I think they're making some great flagships right now. They're coming in at great price points. I definitely want to hear what they have to say at MWC.
Anyone else?
Huawei they've been growing. You could tell from the phones they've had from even all the way back to 2015's CES when they handed out a bunch of phones. They've shown that they want to push into the American market, into the European market. So I am definitely looking forward to see what they do with the P10. I want to see what they do with the processor. I want to see what they do in terms of gaming, design, and also the OS on there. What kind of skin they put on it, because they've begun listening more to just functionality and usability and just giving you a better experience on their devices. And that was something that they focused on earlier. That they basically focused on with journalists earlier on in the year. It'll be really interesting to see how far they've come since the release of the Mate 9 and what they've learned between then and the release of the P10.
Warren, anything?
I'm interested to see what the P10 comes out with. Motorola, we'll see, but they're stuck in the same thing, the branding and the issues that HTC has. So it's just kind of, we'll see what happens. I'd rather hear what you guys have to announce in your strategy and on getting it out to the people, and getting it to beyond a Verizon to carriers. It would be interesting for to see how that goes. The P10 will be interesting. Huawei, it's always been they've had a great 2015, 2016, and now in 2017, and they're continuing to push forward and really become a serious player in this market. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to be announcing at MWC.
Cool. All right, so I think that is pretty much it on the show for this week. I apologize that we have 2 videos. Once I put this up on the podcast, I will of course combine both videos, audio for you guys. So I apologize for that. But we've got to the point of the show where we talk about what we have on the channel currently on our different channels and what we can expect next week. So I'll start off with you, Mr. Juan Bagnell. No sign of you, Warren. It's a brand new year. It's a brand new year. So
it's about time.
Next week,
I'm gonna try and I've got a sneeze coming, so I'm gonna try and make it through this without something erupting onto my webcam right now. Just gonna backtrack some of the accessories and some of the phone videos that we still have to catch up to from CES. I've spent a little time with the 6X, so I should probably have a video out on that next week. Killer little budget phone, and then my ongoing quest to replace my Pebble. I should have videos on the Skagen Hybrid and the Huawei Fit out over the next week too, so be on the lookout for those. Okay, cool. How about you, Mr. Warren Bowman?
Yeah, me?
Yeah.
So besides the usual stuff, we'll cover that for 2017. I'll always have stuff and stuff. But I think right now we had a bunch of videos from CES, some phone hands-on. One of the things that stuck out for people was the Super Retro Boy. It's a Game Boy console that's made by Retrobit, and they can play Game Boy Advance, original Game Boy games. The original cartridge is right into the console, supports all of them. So that's been pretty cool. A lot of people seem to like that. And going into next week, I'll probably be finishing up some more CES covers that I have wrapped up, because I was kind of under the weather the last couple of days. So I haven't been able to for to get to them. So that's what you'll be kind of seeing coming out next week, and probably me continuing to play some, getting back on some Final Fantasy gameplay.
Okay, cool. Sam, how about you?
Oh yeah, start of the year fitness goals. So it's going to be the Huawei Fit. That's going to be the only thing coming across. That video should be ready probably sometime early in next week. So that's about it for me.
Cool. On my side and also on the channel, we have our gaming on the go with the Razer Blade 14. I love that thing, man. It is absolutely amazing. The fact that I can edit video with no stress at all, and game, I could play any game I wanted, at least without it being plugged in at 30 frames per second, which is actually pretty cool.
So all you were doing was gaming at CES?
I mean, when I was taking a break from using the cane, man, come on. We also have our video on the Galaxy S8. It's just titled the Galaxy S8, so take it or leave it. Just put it out there. And that's it for what we have on the channel this week. There's some other CES stuff. In terms of next week, I will try and beat Juan to the review of this bad boy, the Guardian smartwatch. So hopefully my video drops before Juan's video, but he's probably done.
The race is on.
Yes. And later on today, we'll have a review of the Honor 6X by Daniel. The video should be dropping probably around 5 or 6 p.m. And then a few other devices, like our final review of the Razer Blade, and also some headphones, a bunch of headphones actually. So expect some audio stuff from me this coming week. But that is pretty much it, guys. I want to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us in the chat, as well as also joining us after my FUBAR foolishly ending. And yes, Arsenal won. Thank you, George. Yeah, 4-0. Sorry, I had to put that out there. Also, don't forget to check out all the channels. Check out Mr. Juan Bagnell. Yes, Patriots are going to win tonight. Yes, I'm just calling it out now.
Let's hope.
Don't forget to check out Mr. Juan Bagnell. He is part of the Pocket Now crew, so you can check out his videos on Pocket Now, and also follow him on his personal channel. It is Some Gadget Guy, and you can follow him on Twitter as Some Gadget Guy. And Mr. Warren Bowman, he is the editor-in-chief at BW1.com.
No. Executive editor. I'm a little more.
Sorry. Executive editor-in-chief.
I don't use editor-in-chief. I'm the one with the chief with the cane.
At BW1.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at BW1.com. And you can follow Sam on Twitter. His Twitter handle is @BlackIron_man on Twitter. He's part of the Booredatwork network. And for us, it's Booredatwork on Twitter as well as on YouTube. So this is Thunder E saying thank you very much, and always enjoy your entertainment.
#CES Kane.